Hey everybody, welcome back. It's week 3. I just looked at the stats from last week and barely anybody watched the weekly walkthrough video. So, with that in mind, I am going to resort to a tiny bit of bribery. And that is, if you are seeing this video, you have until Wednesday of this week. So, let me double check the date. Oh, maybe I better make it Thursday. We'll make it Thursday just to be on the safe side. Thursday, the end of the day on January 25th, you have one chance to send me an inbox message with the subject line weekly walkthrough number 3. In the body, I want you to tell me your favorite food. And when you do that, I will add 5 points onto your getting to know you discussion board grade, which may mean you get more points than it's worth. That's fine. That's a good thing. It's called extra credit. Everybody loves it. But you're only going to get it if you inbox me by Thursday night with your favorite food, and the subject line has to say weekly walkthrough number 3. Only you and I will know. Anyway, with that being said, let's go ahead and take a look at what we're doing in week 3. All right, so as I mentioned in an earlier announcement this week, all of the modules have been completed and opened. So you are able to look at the whole course if you so desire, and you can feel free to look ahead. This week let's look at the schedule first. This week we are working on MLA documentation and the exemplification paper. So last week we wrote a personal narrative. This week we are writing a paper using examples. So we're going to go ahead and look at the module. In the week number 3, the overview will kind of just tell us what we're doing. We are writing the exemplification paper and learning about how to document our sources. So this will be the first paper where you are utilizing both in-text citations and a works cited page. This is probably the hardest thing we do in ENC 1101, but it is also the most important. So please, as you're working on this week's assignment, if you need help, reach out. If not to me, then to the Learning Center tutors, to somebody, because it's not easy. But if you go through all of the learning materials, you will learn what you need to in order to be successful. So let's look at those. In this week's learning materials, of course, there's a link, as always, to our Valencia Writer. That's the whole overarching library guide. You don't have to click on that necessarily unless you just want to go explore things. The specific readings for this week, we are learning about illustration and examples. There are 2 pieces of writing there that you're going to look at. One is Module 5 in the Lumen Learning System, and the other is on that rhetorical patterns page, which you've already been to. This week, you're going to read the selection on exemplification. There is a lecture video where I will go over everything that you need to know about life and MLA documentation. And then when you're using research, you're going to want to create the works cited page first. And here is a tool to help you with works cited lists. Then as you're writing, you will make sure to include what are called in-text citations. So make sure to review that as well. One of the biggest misconceptions that people have about in-text citations is that you only need them with direct quotes. That is not true. You also want to make sure that you're not always just quoting from sources. So this is going to be the first attempt at this for us for this class. So while I will not expect you to be perfect, I do want you to do your absolute best at it. You'll get feedback on it and you'll be able to make improvements from there. Okay. So those are your learning materials. And then of course you are ready to write and then submit the paper by Sunday night. So the assignment for the paper is is linked here. It's also out on the module, which is where you will go to submit your paper. So let's take a look at the assignment. In the exemplification essay, you will use one or more examples to illustrate an idea-based thesis. In addition to your own experience and knowledge, you certainly can write about things that you know well. You'll be using research from Valencia's library to strengthen your work. You will be using primarily what we call reference materials, which are things like encyclopedias, because you're mostly looking for factual information like biography and things of that nature. And that's where you'll get your details from. In terms of selecting a topic, you're welcome to create your own, but I have already crafted 4 potential thesis statements for you. And if I were you, I would just choose one of them, but it should be something similar to this. An exemplification essay is where you take a general idea and you use examples to illustrate it or to explain it. So here's some possibilities for you. Great athletes do not reach the top by talent alone, but by hard work and diligent practice. So your examples need to be athletes who work hard. While celebrity news often focuses on stars who do questionable things, there are, thankfully, a number of celebrities who are great role models. Again, your examples there are going to be people. One of the best ways that people can become good global citizens is through travel, and there are several places that stand out as great targets for travel. For that one, you're not looking for people, but you're looking for places. And then, of course, what you would research for that would be why they are important and why they would be good places to go to learn about global citizenry. And finally, stress is, unfortunately, one of those quintessential human experiences, but there are also a number of ways to combat stress. So your examples would be tools, tips, techniques for stress relief. So it could be something like yoga, for example. I have that below. In choosing the examples, you need to have concrete illustration of what you're looking at. So the first 2 would involve people, and the third one would be places. It doesn't have to be cities. It could be something very specific, like even something within the United States, but something that's culturally significant. So it could just be a location. It doesn't necessarily have to be a city, although I use cities as my examples there. And then for the stress one, it would need to be techniques. So I included yoga and a healthy diet. There's a lot more. Now, how many examples do you need? Typically, we think of 3, okay? But at least 2. And you can have more than that. If you have a bunch of examples that you can think of, you can certainly have more than 2 or 3, but 2 to 3 is probably the right amount. You're going to be writing an essay, so you'll have an introduction. You will cover each one of your examples in body paragraphs, and then you will have a conclusion. So at least 2, probably 3, maybe 4. You can decide with how much you want to talk about with each one. Structure and organization, you're going to organize your essay logically with the introduction, like I said, body paragraphs and a conclusion. In terms of transitions, you're going to use phrases and words that help guide the reader as you move from point to point. The primary organization of the body will be the examples themselves, and you can spend more than 1 paragraph on each example. So if you do only have 2, but they're very complex, like say I was writing about the athletes and I had Tom Brady and Serena Williams, I'm going to want to spend more than 1 paragraph on each one of them because I'm going to talk about their lives. I'm going to talk about their work ethic. I'm going to talk about their success. I'm going to have various things that I want to cover. If you want some extra help before submitting your final essay, you are going to need to make sure you work ahead because there's not a lot of help available on the weekend, and it is due on Sunday night at the end of this week. But certainly, if you have a draft by Friday and you want to get some help from the Writing Center, that would be a great idea. Formatting, same as we used last time. Type double space 12-point font, minimum of 3 pages. And you are going to have a works cited page this time because you are going to have resources that you're utilizing. The rubric is right here. You are getting points for that documentation. So again, I don't expect it to be perfect at this point, but I do want to see you doing your best with it, and then we will get the feedback and work from there. Okay. So you are going to do just like you did last week. You're going to start the assignment and do an attachment, and then you're going to submit. Please reach out anytime this week if you need extra help. And don't forget, if you listened and watched this video, you should be able to earn some extra credit points this week as well. By Thursday night. That's it. Take care, everybody.